This is Scott Becker with the Becker Business Podcast and the Becker Private Equity Podcast. Today's discussion is don't blow your lump sums. So one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from a leader, a business leader, and a really centered person who I think the world of, named Jim Waldenberg. And he basically had this advice for me years ago. He essentially said, if you ever come into a bit of money, the best thing that you could do is really not spend that money for a year or two, to sit on it for a year or two. And I think the advice was such great advice, because when you first come into money, particularly if you didn't have any, there's this tendency to overrate how much money you have and to exuberantly spend some of it on what essentially might be fun things or great things, but not the smartest things for maintaining long-term wealth. A great example of this is a woman leader that I know came into hundreds of thousands of dollars, and rather than going out and buying something insane, that person went out and bought a couple pairs of Jordan shoes off of eBay. And again, this might seem so bad or so like, oh my goodness, but the reality is that person leaves themselves positioned so that they decide later on that they want to invest money in a certain way, they want to buy a house, they want to do whatever they are going to do, that they've not put themselves in a position where they later can't do it because they dribbled away the funds that they got when they acquired a lump sum. The advice from this gentleman, Jim Waldenberg, who's one of the smartest, best people I know, even though I was a little irritated with him recently, but that's a different story. It's really one of the better pieces of advice I've gotten about money management over the years. What I talk about often is you see people that professional athletes are the class case in this, but there's lots of people that do this. They come into money. Johnny Depp's a great example, and they later go broke because they don't really realize what the cost of life is going to be going forward. And you could, or they think they'll be able to continue to make money like they made it. So again, if you come into a lump sum of money, it could be $10,000, it could be $100,000, it could be $1 million. The concept is to hold that money for a year or two to get comfortable with it before you start spending it crazy. Yes, you go out for a nice dinner, but not crazy. You buy a nice pair of shoes, but again, hopefully not $1,000 shoes, $200 shoes, and you enjoy some of it, but you try at the end of the day to watch that lump sum to grow into that network, to be comfortable with it before you blow it all. I think it's just great advice. Thank you for listening to the Becker Business Podcast, the Becker Private Equity Podcast.